All right, perfect. Hi, Peppermint. I heard you're up in Toronto right now.
I'm up in North Bay right now, which is not Toronto.
Oh, okay. But are you originally from New York? I just wondered about that to start off.
No, I was born in Hershey, Pennsylvania, but I do live in New York right now.
Oh my gosh,
And I have been for many decades.
Got it. Okay. I've been to Hershey. I rode the little roller coaster and all that.
Oh, the little tiny roller coaster through. Hershey Park is a fun place. And you know what? If you go to Hershey Park, if you're staying there for a couple of days, in addition to doing Hershey Park, there's another amusement park that I also love, maybe a little more than Hershey Park. It's called Dutch Wonderland. That's really for kids. It's like it's like they don't have anything for like adults, but it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. That sounds great. Well, tell me how GLAAD was. You did the, recent hosting there, right?
Yeah, I did the GLAAD Media Awards. They have two awards every year. Well, basically every year they choose several people that they want to honor, people who are doing great things for the community. And they have so many awards that they can't do them all at one thing. It's be a 12-hour ceremony. So they do split it up into two, East Coast and West Coast. And so I hosted the New York Awards this year, the 33rd annual, 33 years. And it was so much fun. There were so many fabulous people there. We were all gathered to obviously sort of bemoan some of the things that were happening in queer culture today, including the impending Roe v. Wade decision. And in the midst of all of this sort of doom and gloom, it was great to get together and just clear the slate and focus on community. I was so stoked to meet honoree Judith Light, legendary actress, most popular from Who's the Boss, but so many things since then. And of course, Wilson Cruz, who he was also honored that night. They were the two main honorees, but there were some other people, fabulous people who were accepting awards, and the cast of Pose was there. I got to have a moment with Ariana DeBose. I just loved it.
That's so cool. Oh my gosh, I love all that. So let's focus on your show. You're bringing it to Chicago. So tell me about the musical journey of this upcoming tour and show.
Yeah, well, it starts with the music. I had a tumultuous and also at the same time really rewarding relationship that ended. And at the end of it, I guess the best thing I got out of it was about 2 diaries worth of entries that I turned into music and I released recently online streaming for everybody to hear. It's called the collection, the relationship is called Letters to My Lovers, but it's so many songs because I had so many feelings that it's in 3 different albums. And the first one is A Girl Like Me, and the second one is called Moment of Weakness. And the third one, which isn't out yet, is called Validation, which comes out next year. But I decided, you know what, after the pandemic, after all this, I need to get on the road and I want to do these songs live with a band and really like be able to tell the stories behind how they were created. And so I decided to do just that. I have a solo tour. It kicks off in July. It's a US tour and I'm coming to Chicago.
Awesome. Yes. So it's going to be stories and music and a band, right?
Yeah, I know a lot of people probably aren't old enough to remember VH1 Storytellers and MTV Unplugged, but it's very much that vibe. I'm going to tell people a little bit, get to know the real Peppermint. I know people love the Britney Spears lip syncing girl on Drag Race, that 30-second clip of me, but there's just so much more. And so I want people to get to hear that and feel that.
Yeah. And there's remixes too. It seemed very like a set down kind of music, but you have remixes too.
Yeah, there are dance remixes. Now I won't be performing. It's not like a dance club kind of vibe. The actual tour. It's very much singer-songwriter. Really get intimate. But there are remixes if people prefer to hear the music and dance to it. There are some really great remixes. One of my favorite remixes is by Electro Point Music, but there's an entire collection available of both the first and second songs from the first and second albums. Available for people to to get their little remix groove on.
Nice. Did what was I've listened to the Carole King cover. What was, are you just a huge fan? Mhm.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the whole question.
Are you a huge fan of Carol's, or what was the?
I mean, I do love Carole King. And I think, Carole King is one of those artists, one of those creators that even if you don't recognize her name, you definitely love, or at least have heard and should be familiar with some of the hits that she created or co-created. And so Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow is certainly one of those. I knew the song because I had my grandmother had a tremendous music collection of records, LPs, in her basement, which I used to go to. And that was one of the songs that I would play the Ronettes version. And so years later, I actually had the chance to go and see Beautiful, which is the musical inspired by Carole King, the Broadway musical inspired by Carole King's life story, about her, everything that she had gone through, the relationships, ups and downs, being a woman in the music industry, so many years ago, was just so touching. And the story behind Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow, as it was set in the musical, just added another layer. And so I was really, when I was thinking about the types of songs that really touched me and wanted to express kind of what I wanted to express, because a lot of, in my experience, and a lot of the times I talk to my girlfriends, we sit and we commiserate about all the hot guys we've hooked up with from online, and we realize some of them are the same one because these guys just bounce from girl to girl. But you have a really hot, wild night, and at the end of the night, you're like wondering, like, what is this going to be? Will this turn into anything more? Is this just going to be an endless parade of swiping and swiping and swiping, or what? Because sometimes you want to experience a little bit more than just a swipe, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so that's really, I think, I don't know if that's exactly what the Carole King was thinking about when she wrote the song, but certainly it touched me in that way. And I wanted to be able to express that from a queer perspective, because I think that queer folks, we do a lot of things. We're great at hair and makeup and we can dance, but we're so much more than just that. And we have regular feelings, and we want to have, relationships with people that are rewarding, not necessarily monogamous, but some people want the traditional route with kids and a family. Some people don't, but we should have all that stuff available to us. And I think as queer folks, we don't necessarily grow up with lessons of how to be in a loving, healthy relationship. Not that queer relationships are unhealthy, it's that we don't have healthy examples of these types of relationships for us that are aimed at us. And so I think the byproduct of that is the feelings that inspire a song like Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow?
Yeah, oh, I love that. It's true. And so that brings us to Broadway. You meant so much to the LGBT community when you broke some glass ceiling with your own Broadway debut, and it meant a lot to a lot of us. I just wanted to tell you. And what was the experience overall, real quick? What was that like?
It was amazing. It was great to be a part of the Broadway community. It was a really difficult show to do because it's just difficult to do a Broadway show. But I'm happy that I was able to do it in that show, because it, to me, was the queerest show I had ever experienced or seen. And I'm a theater queen, so I've seen a lot of shows. And that was definitely the queerest, most body positive, most just like open show. And I think we came a little bit before our time. I'm glad it happened when it did. Something tells me that the show would have performed, a lot better in terms of ticket sales if we had opened after 2020. But, it was what it was. And I really enjoyed it. And so many people are still coming up to me talking about how they saw the show on Broadway, or they love listening to the music. Of course, it's the music of the Go-Go's. So how can you not love that? Sure. And, there are even colleges and schools that are performing the show to this very day. And so it's so great. Even though it was only a few years ago, it seems like it was almost a lifetime ago.
Yeah, a lot's happened. Um, so also in activism, I think is really interesting that like comedians are being activists now, and it's being shown in drag all over the place. And I thought about, I was wondering if you like were a Nina Simone fan, you know, with your even your performance and how she was such an activist and stuff. So I wondered, you know, if you were inspired by her.
I mean, absolutely. I remember, I can't remember the name of the I watched the Nina Simone documentary
Yeah.
about 3 years ago when it came out, four year, whatever,
Mhm.
years ago when it came out.
Mhm.
And of course I'd been a big fan of, I've known some of her music. I didn't really know her story until her full story, or at least as much of her story until I saw the documentary. Um, and, you know, I think that's because, you know, even though these women like Nina Simone, even like Grace Jones, had these hits, right? And had these songs. I think there was an element of pop culture and mainstream music that really wasn't interested in the plight of like what their experience as Black women was. Because it's fair to say that obviously their experience as who they are and were really was shaped by their, you know, by the world around them and by racism and by sexism and all these things that do exist in the world. And if it exists in the world, then it also exists in the music industry. And so those are, I certainly identify as well with what I believe these experiences to be. You know, I experience a lot of these things as well. So I can really identify with them. I think it's important when you can, if you get the calling as a singer or an actor or entertainer, to also connect with activism. If you get that sort of calling and it feels natural to you, then I think that you should do it. And so working that in to my music is really important, and not just my music, and just sort of my entire platform and persona. You know, I can't think of a better word for it, but it is important that I talk to not only my community to let them know, like, hey, if you're queer, you are to be loved, you are fabulous, do your thing, girl, but also to people who aren't in the queer community, to let them know, hey, look at us. This is an example of us, one of us, some of us doing these things, and it's, we're not just the queer community over there. We want the same things that everybody else wants, and so we can have a connection.
Amen. So I saw Fire Island this week, and I interviewed Joel Kim Booster and Andrew On. It's hard to say his name. I've never tried before. But I spotted you immediately, and I was like, that is Peppermint. I'm talking to Peppermint this week. How was that experience and everything? You did a nice job.
Thank you. I really enjoyed being in the movie. You know, they called me and asked me would I jump in. I said absolutely. You know, Fire Island is a big part of my New York adulthood, and it's, you know, certainly a place. It's a queer travel destination, a vacation destination for a lot of people, not just people in New York. And so it is. There's so many relationships, friendships, arguments, and fights that have happened on or about Fire Island. And it's just watching the film, it's like, oh, I can't believe this type of film hasn't been made before. And what's even better is that if the movie had been made 20 years ago, which feels like it could have, because it was just even more, Fire Island has been such a thing for 60 years or more. You know, it seems like even though a film could have been made, a film that would have been made in the 80s or the 90s certainly would have centered around a limited type of person, a type of person, like a limited group of people, or a certain type of people. And I think that this story being told in 2022 is just so much more inclusive and diverse, because the nature and the vibe of the island has also changed over this time, just like everywhere else. And so to have so many fabulous Asian American cast members, just like telling us the story of Fire Island, all of the dance parties and the hookups and the meat rack and the which is like the cruising for sex in the woods for folks who didn't go, and the vomiting on the pier, all that stuff is real. And so I'm just so happy to to have been a part of it. To go back to the Ice Palace and experience, which is the club that my character works in, was great. Although it wasn't really the Ice Palace. It was actually a set in Brooklyn. I hate to say it, but it looked just like the Ice Palace.
Well, you're all over the world. I mean, you're just so fun. What future things are you doing after the tour? Do you have other projects coming?
Yeah, I'm working on Drag the Musical, which is we're workshopping it and kind of building it up, and hopefully going to be performing it in the fall, which is going to be great. And then, you know, after the tour, after my solo tour, I'm going to be focused on writing a book.
Ooh, so like a life story or something else?
Yeah, sort of like, yeah, definitely using my own experiences, but I don't want to say too much about it right now because we haven't even, it's not even ready, but it will include sort of my life story and also sort of a connection to the community, sort of as a resource, maybe a sort of resource guide that includes lessons from my life and things I've learned.
Well, we all need it. You know, we need representation and to hear people's stories. I mean, it's just so important right now with everything going on in the world. So you just keep it up, Peppermint. You're like,
I hope I wasn't trying to Julia Fox the book conversation. I haven't written the book yet. And so I don't know what it's going to be, but I am excited for it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Your Peppermint is my favorite candy now. So
it's mine too, even though I'm just eating gummy bears.
Yeah, that was like your last name for a while, right? Gummy bear.
It was. Peppermints and gummy bears are my two favorite candies. And so, but I had to get a divorce from Mr. Gummy Bear Honey. But that was kind of premature because had I made that name change prior to Google being a thing. My name is just not a Googleable name, you know. So
I noticed. I was looking it up. You have to put in, you know, the whole
Miss Peppermint or drag or, you know, I'm sorry for that. Maybe I need to keep spelling, but it's kind of late for that, you know.
But people can buy tickets at, it's Peppermint. What's the website?
Peppermintonline.com/events will take you right to the page. And I'm performing in Chicago on July 2nd at Talia Hall. Super excited about it. Should be fabulous. Everyone's invited. Please bring the family, come on out, and I will see you there.
Yes, I look forward to meeting you face to face, Peppermint. We're going to set that up and I will see you there. Thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. I'm so sorry again for being late, but I really enjoyed our conversation.
No problem. I did too.